TEDxSanLuisObispo. Woo! Today I want to tell you a love story. Now, my love story starts when I'm 14 years old. And what better way to spend a hot Oklahoma day than out on the lake with your friends? I was back behind the boat, and I looked up, and it was coming towards me, and I screamed, "Hey, stop the boat!" But nobody could hear me. And then, wham, I was hit, and both of my legs were pulled into the propellers. Once my dad reached down, he pulls me out of the water. It was a mess. And I'm screaming, "Why? Why me?" Because isn't that what we do when something tragic happens in our life? They finally get me to the hospital. I died twice. They told my parents that if I survived, I'd probably never walk again. It took a lot of people to save my life that day, and it took a lot more to get me back on my feet. But that's when I realized that through compassion, love unites us like a village. As we see in disasters such as hurricanes and floods and earthquakes and fires. Well, finally I get out of the hospital, and I had to wear this metal brace on my leg because it was paralyzed. Have you ever seen the movie Forrest Gump? Well, if you're ever watching the movie, look in the hospital scene. That's me sitting right behind Tom Hanks. Well, during the next 7 years, I had infections in my leg, and the doctors finally told me, "Todd, we're going to have to amputate." It was pretty tough to hear that. And I can remember looking out over the water in Boston from my hospital room, thinking, wow, I have gone through a lot of challenges in my life. Just like many of you in this room have gone through challenges in your life. And some of you may be going through challenges today. And I thought, do I want all that craziness that's out in the world to determine the happiness, my joy, and the peace I feel in life? Because if I rely on this out here, I have a feeling I'm going to be riding a roller coaster up and down all my life. I thought there has to be something stronger within us. So the next day, I was in the operating room. I was wide awake, didn't even have an aspirin in me. All they did was numb me below the waist, and while I was talking to the doctor, he fired up the saw and amputated my leg. And that was when I realized that no matter what situation you're in, no matter how scary it may seem, you have the power within you to choose love and to experience peace in any situation. Well, I told you I had my leg amputated. All right. Which leg is it? Right? Guys, we've got two choices here, okay? All right. It is my right leg, and I'm going to show it to you so you know that I'm not making this story up. And here it is. And I know what you're probably thinking. That poor guy, he only has one leg. That's not true. I got about 6 or 7 of these in my closet at home. So I go on back to school and become a psychotherapist in Southern California, where Lord knows they need all the psychotherapists they can get. And I met this really charming girl from New Zealand. She had an amazing accent. And this is when I realized that romantic love is not the same as unconditional love. Now, we can learn unconditional love through our romantic relationships and through our family and friends and coworkers and even that guy that flips you off on the freeway. Because we can learn the lessons of love from anyone, and we can teach the lessons of love to everyone. And this kind of love I'm talking about, it's been talked about by poets and philosophers for thousands of years, but only recently have scientists really started studying it. And they realized it has amazing benefits for both our physical and psychological health. I can take a student who's doing volunteer work, and they can see the benefits of this 50 years down the road. But I can take an elderly person, and they can do the same work and see the benefits immediately. Well, we were married a couple of years, got all that immigration stuff taken care of, and I came home one night, and she disappeared. So I lost my wife, my money, and my home all in 1 week. You might say it was kind of a rough week. And sometimes people go through these things and they carry that emotional burden for a lifetime. But love has the power to forgive. When we go mountain climbing, we want to go light, we want to go fast, and we want to go high. We don't carry a lot of extra weight on our back. And if you want to go high in your life and accomplish great things, you've got to learn that unforgiveness is the heaviest burden that you can carry, and you have to let it go. And the faster you let it go, the happier and healthier you're going to be. I went back to work, and there's this letter sitting on my desk. It says, "Dear Mr. Huston, we're looking for 5 disabled climbers, including a leg amputee, to climb to the highest elevations of all 50 states." And I thought, well, heck, I'm not really doing a lot right now. So I applied, and I was accepted. I was so excited. I started training immediately, but I couldn't run 10 feet without having to stop because my legs were like noodles. I hadn't ran in 16 years. But what does the Chinese proverb say? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. That's right. And within 3 months, I was up to running 12 miles. And I learned something about running. I hate it. But I kept going for an entire year until a month before I was ready to go on the climb, and they called and said, "Sorry, but the expedition's been canceled. We didn't get the sponsorship." Well, as I was hanging up the phone, this little voice goes off in me. That's that voice of love that's within each and every one of us. And it's there to guide us and protect us and bring out that greatness that is within each and every one of us so we could be the best that we can be. And it said, "Do this climb on your own." Well, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I went ahead and started organizing the expedition, and I had to raise $50,000 in 30 days. I sold T-shirts. Do you know how many $12 T-shirts it takes to raise $50,000? It took one. That's it. Just one. And that's because I lived on a little island off Newport Beach, and my friends put a poster board up, and it said, "Todd Huston, leg amputee, attempting to climb the highest mountains of all 50 states," to inspire people that they have a strength within to overcome challenges. T-shirts, $12. Guy went jogging by, and he said, "I like that idea. Give me a call at my office tomorrow at 1-800-ABCDEFG. Simple enough to remember. We called him, and he ended up sponsoring the entire expedition, and I don't even think he collected on one T-shirt. So with my new sponsor, I then headed off on the expedition of a lifetime. Now, the name of the expedition was called the Summit America Expedition. And the idea behind the climb was to climb to the highest elevations of all 50 states. This is something that only 32 people had ever done before. A disabled person or leg amputee, they hadn't even been stupid enough to try. That's the leg that I wore. Had a little shock absorber on it so I could jump up and down on the rocks without it hopefully not hurting my real leg. I had to drive through all the lower 48 states to their highest points. I could only fly to Alaska and Hawaii. Very good. So I then went, that's a tough one, wasn't it? So I did the eastern states first. Now the eastern states, like this is the highest point of Delaware. It's actually in the middle of a street. Oh. Guys. All right, you laugh, but it was a very busy street, okay? Guadalupe Peak, the highest point of Texas. It's where it got 118 degrees. It's also where they have a lot of beautiful open range. Now, from the eastern states, I then went to the western states. Now, the western states are much higher, much more difficult, a lot more dangerous. Many of them well over 14,000 feet. You have to watch for the snow and rock avalanches. You can get altitude sickness, or you can get hit by a lightning bolt from the thunderstorms. You have to watch out for the wild animals, such as the moose and the bear and the mountain lion, and, of course, the snake slithering on the ground. Of course, I figure if this rattlesnake would have bit me in the leg, he probably would have been in for a bigger surprise than I would have. Well, from there I went to Granite Peak, highest point of Montana. That's me, the lower climber. I had to go up wall after wall like this, and once I got up to the top, there's this big area called Froze-to-Death Plateau, and on the way up, I literally stepped off the trail. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I risking my life to inspire people, and they'll never hear about it? Well, after I've been on Froze-to-Death Plateau a little while, some guy comes up, and he yells, "Hey, Todd!" I'm like, who knows me up here? Comes over and he hands me his card, and he says, "I've heard what you're trying to do, and if you're successful, give me a call." Long story short, I called him. He knew a publisher. That publisher then did the book, More Than Mountains, the book on this story. And because of that, I ended up getting on national and international TV, including CBS doing a story on it 10 minutes before they aired the Super Bowl and seen by millions of people. And now we're talking to producers about the possibility of a movie. So I want to encourage you. There are going to be times that you're going to want to step off a trail. But you had a dream. You have a passion. You know there's some purpose that you have. And quite frankly, you're the only one that could probably do it. And definitely the only one that could do it in your unique way. So I want to encourage you. Find your trail. Follow it with passion. Do it with love and stick with it. Here I am 2,000 feet up. No rope. 13,000 feet up. Again, no rope. Now I'm going to tell you something you're probably going to disagree with me on, but hear me out. And that is, there is no such thing as fear. Fear does not exist. Now, danger in this world is real, and you want to minimize it or eliminate it. But see, when I'm standing on the side of a cliff looking thousands of feet down, I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. And the person standing next to me could literally be peeing in their pants. But see, if I took everyone in here and lined you up against the cliff, and you were looking down, each and every one of you would have a different experience of fear. That's because you create fear in your head. If it were real, it would be like danger, and it would be the same for all of us. Fear is nothing. Love is everything. I always tell people, don't forget to keep laughing. Love all, fear nothing. Now you might be wondering, Todd, did you ever fall? Let's look at this climbing axe. Does it look like I ever fell before? Yes, I fell many, many times. But it doesn't matter whether you fall 1 time or 300 times. It's that you get back up every single time. And if you're the one standing, then use the love in your heart and reach down and you pull that other person up. Well, from the lower 48 states, I then headed to the big one. This is Denali, the highest mountain in Alaska, 20,310 feet. It's also the highest mountain in the entire North American continent. It is extremely dangerous, not only because of its altitude, but it has some of the worst weather of any mountain in the world. Minus 50-degree temperatures, 100-mile-an-hour winds. You might have to build snow walls around your tent, sleep in a snow cave. You have to watch out for the crevasses that are down below you that you could step in and disappear forever, or the avalanches that can come in on top of you. Well, from here I went on up to 16,000 feet, where it was a razor's edge, dropped off several thousand feet of each side. You do not camp here. You go on up to 17,000, where the high camp is, where it's nice and flat. But as I was heading up to 17,000, that little voice went off in me again. And that voice is not only there to comfort you, but it's also there to protect you. And now I know that this is a voice that you can hear at all times in your life. And it said, camp at 16. Later on that evening, a huge storm came off the Bering Sea, and it was shredding those people up at 17,000. Whenever there was a break in the weather, they had to gather all their gear up and head down to the bottom of the mountain. Maybe come back another year. But since I was a little lower on the mountain and a slightly different angle, we were able to wait out the 3 days of blizzard and whiteout conditions. Once the weather cleared, I headed toward the summit. The lower part here is called the football field. From here, you go up Pig Hill and then traverse across to the top. I had climbers with 2 good legs coming down saying, we couldn't make it. It was too hard. And then I had body bags dragged in front of me from climbers they had found frozen to death. This mountain could get anybody, no matter how good you thought you were. I had to take 3 breaths just to take 1 step. The air is so thin, and every time I took a step, it felt like somebody was taking a climbing axe and jamming it into my kneecaps. But I kept going until eventually I hit the top of North America at 20,310 feet on a very rare and beautiful clear day. Now, I did become the first disabled person to climb to the highest elevation of all 50 states. The world record for 2 legs was 101 days. Instead of that, I did it in 66 days, 22 hours, and 47 minutes, thereby shattering the world record. Thank you. And becoming the first and only disabled person to break an able-bodied world record in extreme sports. I found my why. Now, I don't know what your why in life is or what your why is to the situations you find yourself, but I can tell you when you will know the answer. And that is, when that answer not only blesses you, but it also blesses others. So what's my next mountain? It's to create a global movement of unconditional love. And through my organization, Love the Power, we are getting people from 1% of the population of every nation to sign a pledge, and we will help them with materials and information to where they will learn, teach, and practice living unconditional love. Because our hope is that we can hit a tipping point of love on this planet. Because see, love is our choice. We can choose destructive thoughts or loving thoughts, hateful words or loving words, hurtful actions or loving actions. And I want to encourage you every day, in all your situations, in all the people that you meet, have the most loving thoughts, the most loving words, and the most loving actions. Because you are a powerful being of love. And you have the power within you to not only change your life, but to change this world. And imagine if we had all the parents, if we had companies, if we had governments, all making their decisions based on unconditional love. But before we can do that, we have to learn to live with unconditional love in our own individual lives. Because in the end, it's not going to be politics, it's not going to be technology, it's not going to be economics, but it's going to be love that saves us all. Well, some people say it's impossible. Obviously, I don't believe in impossible. And that is my love story of how I learned unconditional, unlimited love. What is your love story? God bless, and I'll see you at the top. Thank you. Thank you.